morning, church. So DeAnna talked about the Korean church and the Black Baptist church. Every Sunday we had testimony. And if something good happened in that week, you just ran up and told about it. And it was dangerous to give the person the mic because sometimes they went too long, but I'm going to try not to do that. And if I go too long, just tap me on the shoulder. That's what we did. The preacher would come up and say, amen, amen, and it would be over. So in 2011, I retired from my job in the corporate world, and I went back to seminary. And I never told my mom how much money I left behind. And she asked me last week, and I still didn't tell her. And my dream, I live in Mesa Verde, my dream became to be the chaplain at Eden Medical Center because I wanted to work and minister in the community where I live. And in 2016, that dream became reality. And my plan was to retire from there. I figured I'd work there about another 10 years, and then I'd retire from there, and there'd be this big party in my honor and everything that I'd done. I mean, I had a plan, you know, and but always trying to get back to being humble and doing what God has asked me to do. My humanity, my pride comes up every once in a while. In the summer of last year, some things began to change in my work environment and in my life. And I began to get nudgings from the Lord that my season at Eden was up. And it was just hard to believe because that wasn't my plan. And then my body began to talk to me, and I began to get ill periodically. My back would go out, my eye was twitching, and I had headaches regularly. And I was seeking out medical help to address those, and they would wax and wane. And then I began to talk to Pastor Jake, and then other people in my circle who are elders to me and speak into my life, and we would pray and we would walk and we were talking about this. And things kept waxing and waning, and I just kept trying to figure out, is it the right time? And then on March 8th, some things happened definitively again that my body told me once again, it's time. My back went out, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't move. I left work, and on my way home from work that day, it was a Friday, I got a call asking if I wanted to interview for a job that I didn't even know I had applied for. And I said yes, and the interview was scheduled for March 15th. I went home, I got in the bed, and I woke up an hour later, and I couldn't move. I almost had to call 911 because I literally could not move without pain, and for 2 days I couldn't walk. But I was preaching on March 10th, and I told the enemy, you know, the devil is a liar. That's what we say in the Black Baptist Church, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to preach anyway. And Dean came to me after service, and he said, you're not quite your normal self. And I thought, that's what muscle relaxants will do for you. You know, but so we got through that message, and I got through the interview on March 15th. And then came service last weekend when I was due to preach again. And just before I got up to preach, a young man named Demetrius, got up and said a poem. And in his spoken word, he said, loving you comes with more than benefits, but also responsibility. And it has been irresponsible of me to avoid you like this. Irresponsible to live in so much fear that I avoid the person who made me, avoiding me at my best. I'm sorry. And I began to cry. And I was like, I got to stop crying because I got to get up and preach. And then I got up and preached, and in the middle of my message, I was talking about Abraham leaving a country when he didn't know where he was going. And I showed you a movie clip of Indiana Jones, and Indy had his foot out like this. And in the middle of my message, I'm telling you guys, it's first for the preacher and then for the people. And it's hard to preach when God's talking to you at the same time and telling you things, because God said to me, you've had your foot up for 9 months, and it's time. And then right after the message, I was speaking with a friend here in the congregation, and they said to me, so your back's gone out, all these things are happening, what are you waiting for? The bugs, plague, blood in the river, So I drove from here, and I drove to the hospital, and I resigned from my job. And when I went in on Tuesday, everybody said, "Oh, you must have a great opportunity." I said, "I don't have a job." And they were like, "What?" I said, "I don't have a job." But they said, "Why are you leaving?" I said, "Because God's told me that it's time, and it's time for me to step out because God's calling me to a growth opportunity. And I don't know where that is, but it's time for me to grow, and my season here is done." It's not a reflection on that place. It's a reflection on what God is calling me to do. Well, Wednesday was my birthday, and I'm 58 years young. And on Wednesday, I got a call that I got the job that I'd interviewed for on the 15th. And so I said, okay. When the recruiter called me, I used to be a recruiter. The recruiter called me. Y'all know what shade is? Well, shade is when you say something and you're kind of making it seem like, well, it'd be something like this. Nick, you might think about wearing a different shirt, but that's none of my business. You know what I'm saying? So you say something, but it's not, so you're kind of quite capping on the person, but not really. So the recruiter called me, and they gave me the job offer, and then they said, "Well, they must really want you." And I said, "Well, but that's none of your business." Okay, so the job offer, as a former recruiter, I used to always encourage people to negotiate, and I would tell them how to negotiate a better offer. When I got the offer on Wednesday, it was on a diverse team that's innovated. There are 7 countries represented in the leadership team. It's the kind of thing that we're striving for here in this church family. There's growth opportunity. I'm going to be a hospice chaplain. I can't say where yet because I need to wait for some things to close. And when the recruiter got through telling me the financial package, there was no negotiation required. All I had to do was say yes and amen. And I just want to tell you, it is so humbling for me because this was not my plan. And even at this age in my life, God is still teaching me, it's my plan, not your plan, sweetie. And there are still things left for you to do. There are still places, like Dr. Sue says, for you to go. And oh, the adventures we're going to have when you follow me. Amen.